Airlines are stepping in to help stranded passengers after Spirit Airlines abruptly shut down operations. The budget carrier grounding all flights this weekend, leaving travelers scrambling for a way to get to where they need to go. Here's more on that story.
The nation's largest ultra-low-cost airline has shut down operations, leaving passengers scrambling and thousands of workers impacted. On Saturday, Spirit Airlines saying it ceased operations effective immediately, canceling all flights and telling customers not to go to the airport.
This morning at 3 a.m., Spirit Airlines ceased operations. So what that means is Spirit does not have airplanes in the air flying as of this morning. Also, their call centers are closed and they don't have staff at ticket counters. So if you have a flight scheduled with Spirit Airlines, don't show up at the airport. There will be no one here to assist you.
Major carriers are now stepping in, offering cap fares and discounts for stranded Spirit passengers.
If you're a customer, many of the airlines that are not Spirit are stepping up to provide you assistance. So United, Delta, JetBlue, and Southwest are capping their ticket prices for Spirit customers.
Spirit blames a sharp rise in fuel costs for forcing the shutdown after months of financial struggles. This announcement coming less than a day after President Trump said he delivered a final proposal in an attempt to keep the airline from folding. Secretary Duffy saying the airline has faced prolonged financial issues, including being in bankruptcy since last summer and having attempted to restructure earlier this year, pushing back against claims the shutdown was caused by rising oil costs linked to the operation in Iran.
So Spirit was in dire straits long before the war with Iran. Multiple times they had filed for bankruptcy. Their model wasn't working. They couldn't get to fiscal health. So this was not the impetus. The war was not the impetus for Spirit.
The collapse is also drawing political reaction over a previously blocked merger and the airline's long-term viability.
And at the time, the Biden and Buttigieg DOJ bragged and said, as they canceled the option for this merger, that this was a victory for U.S. travelers who deserve lower prices and better choices. Now, many at the time said this was a disaster. This merger should have been allowed.
Passengers are now being advised to seek refunds through credit card companies or bankruptcy claims, a process that could take time and may only result in partial repayment.
To talk about Spirit Airlines shutdown, joining us now is Jen Ruiz, travel blogger, author, and Instagram travel content creator. Jen, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Can I just ask you, what do you think will be the impact on the industry? Does the shutdown mean less competition, one less company?
It certainly does in the short term, and we're seeing the impact of that already with other flights now being inundated with demand. We have these temporary price caps, but we're seeing these summer prices go through the roof. We're seeing airlines move to try to compensate by raising prices on other things, now taking away benefits like food or beverage. So we're definitely seeing the effect of having less competition. We're seeing it at a time when summer travel is already really inundated with difficulties this year, and ultimately the impact that it will have is on the ability for people to travel more, right? This was an airline that allowed people to visit their family at the last minute, to travel. You know, I'm from Puerto Rico and they had really affordable flights to Puerto Rico. And so this definitely impacts people who relied on it as an affordable route.
Okay, then does that mean moving forward, we may potentially see lower passenger volume? Is that going to be an issue? And what does it mean for budget travelers?
We're seeing some of that already. We've seen some commentary that, you know, planes are empty, that people don't necessarily have the money to fly. And if that's the case, then we're going to try to see airlines make up for that in the other places. Like I mentioned, luggage fees, taking away benefits. But ultimately, it depends. It could be that they're shutting down routes that aren't as profitable. So maybe a route that doesn't get flown often now, you know, you have these kind of stranded areas where you would previously have a lesser known carrier that would access it or provide at least one flight a day. Maybe now you're going to see flights limited to these major hubs, New York City, Chicago, and that it's going to be harder to get to these other, you know, remote regional airports.
Okay, can I just get your opinion on this? Do you think it was the right move for the government to not purchase Spirit, or do you think they maybe should have?
I think we all wanted to see Spirit win, right? It's been a heartbreaking weekend seeing the posts from airline members, from pilots. There was the pilot who had his last flight and unfortunately had to come back on a different airline, and they were able to give him a water salute. So it's been really sad to see people who have put in, decades. Broward, I'm here in Florida, and they had invested a lot of money into development in Broward, into, jobs in Broward County. So it's a loss for the aviation community. And I think that we all would have wanted to see a resolution that involves Spirit being able to continue. They certainly had, an impressive safety record. And for what I mentioned, as much as people maybe weren't pleased with the lack of amenities or, maybe tardiness of flights, there was always, Spirit got you to where you needed to go. And it got you there in one piece, and it got you there for a price that most people could afford. And so it really is a loss to see this, airline go under like this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a loss. But what are the alternatives? Are there any alternatives now that Spirit is gone?
Certainly. So there are still a lot of budget airlines that consumers can look to. My parents had a flight with Spirit that they were going to take this weekend. They were able to get a refund right away, and they were able to rebook the day prior because, as I mentioned, they had initially booked that flight with Spirit because it was the only nonstop flight available to this more remote airport. And so they had to go now a day earlier to find an alternative flight. They're going to be going with Frontier Airlines, which is an alternative budget airline, Avilo. Definitely, there are budget airlines available, but Spirit was one that had so many routes and so many routes to cities that I think were underserviced at times. And so I think that it's going to be difficult to find alternatives. You certainly can go the route of buying, basic economy fares, looking to utilize points and miles. There are limited times kind of caps on fares now that they have been put into place with the rescue attempts. So you can look to see if you can find any deals. My parents' flight that I mentioned, it was pretty reasonable under the $200 cap that they had for that one way each person. And so there are alternatives available, but as always, when you're working with a budget carrier, you have to allot for the different things that you're going to add to that ticket, right? So maybe what looks to be affordable right off the bat could end up being more than what you anticipated it to be.
Right. Okay. So Jen, what do you think? What is your opinion on this? Are you worried or have any concerns at all about the future of budget airlines? Where do you stand on that?
It's really hard to say because budget airlines are so important to the way that we travel today, but we have seen the loss of budget airlines over time, right? Like, for instance, I previously flew $99 to Iceland with WOW Air, which has since gone defunct. But it seems that whenever a budget airline goes under, a new one comes up. Right now, there's all these new European budget airlines as well, Condor, Play Air, right? Following a similar model. And so I think with aviation, I don't think that we're necessarily going to see the loss of budget airlines completely. What I think we've seen is the introduction of budget airlines affecting how legacy carriers operate, where now they have, before, when you used to have a seat that was included, you used to have the meal included, you used to have the checked bag included, and now we've seen that major carriers have mimicked the model of the budget airline in order to stay competitive. So I don't think they're going anywhere, but I do think that they do tend to fluctuate. They can have, a start and end date, a lifespan that's shorter than what you would expect of other airlines. So it's not something that I would stop flying budget airlines, but I would be very aware of the news. For instance, if I would, knowing this about Spirit, I personally did not book any Spirit flights if I could avoid it because I was concerned that this would be an issue. So I would just kind of keep my ear to the ground, see what's going on in aviation. And if an airline is starting to experience those problems, which they mentioned Spirit has been for some time now, just be wary about your bookings. Maybe book with points and miles, which are a little bit more disposable than cash flow, but they are still worth something. So just be careful when booking with budget airlines.
Right. It's assuring that you say you don't see budget airlines going anywhere because I'm all for competition and choice, right? Just one last question here, Jen. If a customer has a ticket for a future Spirit flight, what are their options right now?
So you do have a lot of people that have already been getting refunds. As I mentioned, for my parents, it was automatic and they were able to get that refund. So if you don't have some kind of correspondence already, I would move as soon as possible to address where it is that you paid for the ticket with. So if you booked through a third-party provider like Expedia, reach out to them, see if your refund is in process, see what's happening there. Go through that method first of trying to get it refunded from wherever you booked it. If it was through Spirit, it should be an easy refund. Otherwise, you can contest it with your credit card, but everybody knows what's happening, so there should be procedures in place to be able to get you your money back. And then try to make sure that you take advantage of these rescue fares, of these fare caps, of these limited time offers from other airlines that are trying to step up and assist, because most of them are really only valid through the end of this week. So you would need to rebook as soon as possible. And then there'll be maybe for flights a few months out to November or so. But you definitely want to do that sooner rather than later, especially knowing that a lot of people are trying to do the same.
Well, all right, Jen, thank you for all the tips today. Good to speak with you.
Likewise.
Still ahead, a growing fight over congressional maps. New moves in multiple states could reshape the House.